Friday night racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
And you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball with thanks to goracing.ie. John Duggan with you to talk about the Sport of Kings with plenty of action at Navan, Naas and Newmarket this weekend. Joined in studio as always by our racing guru Johnny Ward and our special guest this week, trainer Damien English. Damien, Johnny, how are we doing?
All good, John. Have fun, thank you.
Happy Friday, Ryder Cup. You know, what a weekend to look forward to. There you go. Good answer, Damien. Good answer. You're very welcome to the programme, Damien. You're training in County Dublin.
Yeah.
Not many trainers from Dublin, I don't think.
No, I said there's only a handful of us. You've Aidan McGuinness there and Jim Draper. I'm sure there's another one or two, but I don't spring to mind right now. But yeah, no, not many of us.
Tell us about your beginnings in the sport.
Yeah, no, look, I was passionate about horses, ponies, and just loved them. I left school after the junior cert and went down to the Curragh to do the apprentice course there and race. I had a great time down there.
Like Sean Flanagan, our guest last week, he also did that. So tell us about that course. What does it ground you in, Damien?
No, well, it's just grounding the basics of mining horses. We started off actually in a riding school with ponies, just going right back to basics, and then they bring you along slowly till you're up to a standard to go out to the racing yards in the Curragh, and you do a bit of class in the meantime. It's great. Like if you're into computers and that, there's computers there. Not that I spent much time there, but when we got going to the yards, that's what I loved it. I spent a little bit of time in John Ox's, Michael Grassick's, and just getting out, because you see the gallops in the Curragh every day, and you're just itching to get out on them. And when I got that first chance, the bug, it just catches you.
Johnny, you've got horses with this man, is that correct?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I was at Punchestown in April, and I'd been on a pretty poor run punting, I remember, and Damien had offered me to get into a horse by the name of Dance Alone. And
is that kind of reference to you, Johnny, in any way?
It was actually named before he got him, but we've all danced alone. But I remember meeting Damien, and I think it was a Wednesday or the Thursday at Punchestown, and he was asking me about Dance Alone, and he said he's actually entered on Wednesday at Dundalk. And I said, I'll tell you what, right, if he wins, I'll get in a horse with you. And he was going to be a big price. And he won at 16-1 at Dundalk, and it went like clockwork. It basically went like everything he said would happen. And then Damien sold the horse on, got new owners. The horse has been a bit of a star, and yeah, we've become good buddies ever since. I'm hoping to even get invited to his wedding if he ever does get married.
Yeah, well, that's all up to her now. She's got me under serious pressure to earn some money this winter in Dundalk to pay for it.
Yeah, and Dundalk could be bountiful for him this winter as well.
And you were riding for a while, and then you went to a point-to-point race and didn't go to plan for you.
That's for sure. No, look, I was struggling amateur jockey, and actually bought a couple of point-to-pointers to ride myself, and things were actually starting to go well. I was riding them every weekend, starting to finish third and fourth. Could see the winner only around the corner when one day the loose horse kind of came across the fence and just cleaned me out of it. I done me cruciate, me mediate and me cartilage. So
were you? What was the immediate feeling? Was it fear? Was it just shock?
No, it was just it was more frustration, because the horse that won the point-to-point, Dublin Hunter, finished behind me the week before. So all things considered, I'd have probably won it if I stayed on my feet.
So was it just instant pain, or?
Yeah, I thought it was broke. Honestly, cause when you hit the fence, you could hear the birch and I could hear a snap. And it was just, I was trapping. I honestly just thought it was broke. And
a point-to-point, you say, the facilities is there an ambulance on course? Is it?
Oh yeah, no, there's two ambulances on course. The point-to-points, they're brilliant. Like they might be in fields, but they're definitely well run.
Just as administrated, just as well.
As the track, yeah. Like
it's hard to imagine as well. Like we all think he doesn't have any jumps horse. It's all flat horse in Dundalk, and it's hard to imagine he's a point-to-point riding background. It just shows you know where you come from.
That's it. Like when I started, after the injury, when I got going training, we tried to train the point-to-pointers to go on the track. We'd only 2 or 3 of them, and they were just so slow. And like I could see I could never get a toe into that game with just a couple of horses. So that's when we went and we invested 3,000 each in 3 horses, and like we were just blessed. Casher Casley was one of them. He was he won 9 for me. Was placed.
He put you on the map, this horse.
Well, look, yeah, he was my first winner. I was 25, and I was down in Galway for the week. He was running on Monday, and my dad and the whole lot there said, "Dad, this lad's actually going to run well this time. You know, this could be your first time."
Was it true you only went to Galway just so yourself and your lady could have a nice weekend together?
That's what it turned out to be. But on the Monday, I actually thought he'd run a big race. He'd finished 5th in Belliostown.
What was the distance of this race, sir?
Mile.
Okay.
And Colm O'Donoghue rode him, and
this is the festival now. Was this on television?
Yeah. And told Colm, just keep it simple, jump and let him bowl. He actually looked like he was stopping him, because he never let the horse down. Broke his jaw and finished out the back, and he came back in and said, "Look, wrong course for this type of horse. Like he's got it wrong coming here with this lad." And my dad was looking at me going, "Jesus, maybe this training isn't for you. Maybe we should think of something else." And my dad and that Mal stayed the Monday night. They went home. I said, "Jesus, this could be the last week of my training career. I'm going to run him here again on the Friday." horse as well. Said I'll make the most and enjoy my week in Galway. The missus coming down for the weekend. So lo and behold, he went out on the Friday and bolted up. Beat Along Came Casey. 6-4 shot of them at Wells. So
and a lot of people still remember that because Along Came Casey was one of these good things in Galway, John, that everyone had backed, and she turned out to be like a proper group performer, and she was running off something in the region of 66 or something, and she couldn't be beat, and Damien was the scourge of Galway on that occasion.
I'll never forget it, like walking into the winners' enclosure there, it was an unbelievable feeling, and I've been chasing that ever since now.
Were you just stunned when you were watching it, or were you was it just absolute mayhem?
Look, it was exactly what I thought he could do on the Monday. But then the week when I was down with myself going, geez, how did I get that so wrong, And you I actually had a tenner each way in him that day, and that was it. I think he was 33-1, like just for the sake of it. And look, it was brilliant. Because I always knew the horse had ability, and it was actually Rory Cleary that rode him in Bellestown that got the first squeak out of him. He finished 5th, and he said, no, you're actually getting somewhere with this lad. So it broke my heart the Monday in Galway, and just delighted we stuck with it and stayed there till the Friday, and he done the goods.
And All Ablaze, another one. You think you bought for about €1,000?
Yeah, he was a star. I remember Cash of Casualty was rated maybe 85 or 86 at the time when we done a piece of work on the beach with a 2-year-old. I went by Cash of Casualty like he was stopped. The buzz I got there, I said, we have a proper horse here. But as a 2-year-old sprinter, it just took them a few runs just to put it all together to learn to sprint. But once he did, he won 3 on the bounce. He won a 30 grand handicap. And in February, as he just turned 3, he beat his older horses, which isn't something common, for a 3-year-old to be beating the older horses in February. So we knew he was something special, but just very unlucky. He ended up getting a leg, and we lost him in the end. But he was very good. Did
you feel under pressure starting out because you're a small trainer and no?
No pressure, no. I love it. Everyone had written me off. Everyone thought my dad was wasting money. So there was no pressure. There was no expectations. I just love working with horses, and I just kept telling myself, if I want to make a career of this, it's got to work. So I just kept the head down and kept doing what I love doing.
Because you don't really know, I wonder what you would have done otherwise.
That's the thing. Like when I got the injury, I went in and worked with my dad's factory for a year, and it was the first time I was getting a proper wage and proper working Monday to Friday, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And as soon as I got back into horses, I knew, right, I can't end up back in here again. So it was do or die.
What have you learned about horses in the last few years since you started working with them?
That every one of them's different. You cannot train them all the same. They all have their little quirks, little personalities, and that's one thing we do is we never train them all the same. Some horses they need a lot more short, fast work. Other horses need a lot more rest, and it's figuring each horse out, and that's what I love. I love getting a horse in the yard and just find out, right, how can I get him to his best physical condition to produce his best in the race course, and that's what I love doing. I get a real pleasure out of that.
And you train up on the beach?
Yeah, see, that makes it even more special because horses coming from big yards, run walkers, run gallops, they're doing the same thing day in, day out.
It's almost like an industry for these big yards.
That's his big thing as well, that like the horse that gets kind of maybe fed up of being in Newmarket or the Curragh, change of scene, goes to the beach, a lot of I suppose beach exercise, that it can revitalise them, like I suppose like a player nearly going to another club or whatever.
That's it, yeah, like it's totally different. It's something they've never done, and like if you get a horse that's a bit sick of it there and just kind of fed up, well, we'll just bring him down to the beach and walk in the sea for a month,
Red Rum was trained on the beach.
That's right, yeah, like there's been plenty of good horses trained on the beach, and it's just my horses, we do a whole system where they go down, they do their little canter or swinger, they walk in the sea, and then they'll roll in the sand. We'll take the sack off and let them roll in the sand. And after a while, the horses, all they think of the beach, associate going to the beach with is having that roll in the sand. They're like kids getting loose in the playground,
And you were up at Late Town, you were there as well, Johnny. I was there. I loved it. I was thinking to myself, maybe it's an organisational thing. Why can't we have this more often?
I actually thought about that since. I think Late Town should be more than once a year because it's become so popular, and actually it's a lot better than some flat meetings now in terms of the quality of horses there, and they're restricted by the trip. I think they should look into that as well. I don't think they need to be. I know there was an incident a few years ago, but I think they could look into having longer races as well and make it maybe a 7 or 8 race card, or at least 2 fixtures, but because I suppose when Damien gives you a horse, you do go up and watch them on the beach, and I think the photo that that horse race in Ireland using the tweet for this actual episode was a photo that I took up there one day, and I had the flash on by accident, so the horses came out as a silhouette, but it came out as this photo of just 3 horses in the water, and they were in black. But when you go up there, you're just so at peace, and you can see the horses are very, very happy. And I was always fascinated by Damien saying the horses associate things with something else, and horses who maybe lost their love of the game, they associate racing maybe with some sort of injury they have, or with pain, or with losing. And his thing was like, once they go up to the beach, they know they can have a roll and they can enjoy themselves and they're happy.
Yeah, that's something I really think, because it was such a great day out, and it's not about betting necessarily or points or whatever. It's just about seeing a beautiful day. You can see the whole of the Irish Sea ahead of you, and these horses are running and they're coming towards you, and I thought it was fantastic.
You have a great view as well.
Yeah, you do, and why can't we have this every month in the summer? I'm sure we'll be able to do. So Tribal Path, Red Adventure, other horses that you've had success with?
Yeah, Tribal Path has been a bit of a superstar. He was 1,200 guineas purchased in Newmarket, had won once and lost.
That's the way you say guineas. That's the way it should be done, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, well, that's it. That's all we know over there. So we got him back, and he actually took me a year to figure him out. And he was one that taught me. I've learned so much from that horse because he had so many little problems, and it took me a while to figure him out. But it was definitely worth it, because once we got him right, he won 6 in 6 months. He won 4 on the bounce for me. He was 4th in Irish Lincoln, which is probably still one of my best runs for a horse, and he was just touched off in a 100 grand handicap in Galway. We sold him last year as an 8 draw for 20,000, but we were lucky there about 6 weeks ago to be able to purchase him back.
And
he's his
He
first,
runs at Dundalk tonight.
yeah, his first start back with me tonight. So look, to get him, we sold him last year right in the 80s, and to get him back off 68 is something I could never have dreamed of. So hopefully we can exploit that mark with him now.
I remember when he won his first race for you, I was actually at Dundalk that night, and if there's such a thing, John, as winning too easily, he won too easily that night, because the handicapper had to really, seek some retribution. I think he probably went up 12, 14, maybe 16 pounds. But I remember coming into winners enclosure and I said, he's won a bit too easy. And he said, no, don't worry about that. This lad'll be fine. And he just rattled off. What was it?
Yeah, well, he went on. He won another one in Dundalk after that, and then I ran him in a really good race in Dundalk, and didn't run bad. But his first run back on the grass, off a lower rating again on the grass, he went off at 25-1 in Cork, and that was the first of his 4-timer, and he posted up that day.
What about tonight?
Tonight, I think he's a good chance. Look, I've only got him 5 or 6 weeks, and I'm very, very happy with him. He seems to be showing me that spark that he always does. Look, he's come back and just got into a routine. It's like he's never been gone.
This is a horse I love backing as well, because basically he springs out the gates. He's just he's normally 1 or 2 lengths clear, and he's a typical Giants causer. He just wants to win.
Yeah, he's the most genuine horse, and he's so nice to ride. He's so nice to train. Like with Tom Malone there who hadn't rode out in about 15 years, come in. He gave him a couple of spins there early in the week, and he couldn't get over how much of a giant, pleasant horse he is. He just loves his job.
And Tom Malone does a bit of presenting. You'll see him at the Curragh and that. And he hadn't ridden out in 15 years, but he was brazen enough to say that horse is well handicapped from his bit of work the other day. So he got right back into the swing of it.
Very good. And you're obviously infectiously enthusiastic, Damien, and positive about the love of horses. But you had a virus in the yard. How testing was that for that optimism?
Oh, stop. Horses will break you. I'm nearly a chain smoker at this stage. When a bug gets into the yard, you're just trying to pinpoint where it's coming from. Is it just something the horse has brought in? Is it something in my hay feed? You're examining everything. You're sending stuff after you get tested, and you just need to know where it's coming from.
And did you pinpoint it quickly?
Yeah, no, not quickly. In 2014, we went till November without a winner. I've had a winner every year training, and that was my worst year. And it wasn't until November that we got the winner. I was actually asked Dad. But that year taught me so much more. I learned so much in that year.
Did you learn about yourself as a person, about your own personal resilience?
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a few dark days.
Oh, big time. I don't know how my missus is still putting up with me and my family, because you could be pulling your hair out. You'd be up at 6 in the morning, be in cleaning stables, disinfecting. And when we did pinpoint it, the relief,
Did you get support from people?
Everyone around me. Aoife Quigley was a vet that was with me from the start, and she was absolutely brilliant. She wasn't like one of these older vets that just kind of they go through the motions. They know each thing. She had to figure things out, and meeting her was brilliant. And now the next vet's along. She's left Aoife, Sarah Jane. She's been another brilliant asset to the yard. And I have to say, my brother Craig. When I was starting training, my brother Craig was in college here studying to be a journalist.
Yeah, John, he saw the light and left the journalism game.
He didn't want to end up like you.
Yeah.
No, he was working half days, and when he got his degree, he done a thesis on Coolmore Ballydoyle, so he was getting more and more sucked into it the whole time, and he's just become my right hand man now. I can just leave that yard to him now, and we've simplified it. It runs like clockwork, but you just have to be meticulous, observing everything. And Craig's been brilliant, and he's really got a mind for the fact and figures and that. So he's able to run the business side where I wouldn't have been. Billing owners, if I thought you could send me a horse I'd win, I'd nearly train it for too cheap. Where he's put the price on and said, no, this is how we make a living out of it. And we're trying to make a business now. So the two of us together, we're working really well. So it's great.
What are the ambitions, the dreams?
Just keep training winners.
Yeah.
I just keep training winners. That's all I want to do. I just love it. All I want to do is win races, bring horses along. Look, wherever it takes us, it takes us. But as long as I'm training horses and they're winning, I'll be happy.
I know, Horse Racing Ireland obviously sponsors the show, and I suppose we're selling a dream to an extent, and this is a tough game. If you're getting involved in ownership, you know that it's likely that
you're going to lose more money than you're going to win. You might have your day out, a couple of good days out possibly, but
absolutely,
you know that it's the money that's going out every month don't expect that back.
Yeah, so it's like bills were somewhere in the region of 1,200-1,400 a month, give or take. You know, if you're with a bigger yard, it's more. You might get less, but probably that should be at least the minimum you're paying. But Damien bought like Geological for 800 guineas, and I remember he was a 2-year-old rated about mid-80s for Richard Hannon, and he'd been consistent. And I remember saying to him, like, I couldn't figure out, how did you get this horse? Is he missing a leg or something? And they thought that. And what has he won? Like
148,000 now, and he's not finished. He's only a 6-year-old.
What did you see in him?
He'd won twice the 2-year-old. His last run for Richard Hanley was third in the sprint at Epsom, but he'd only ran twice as a 3-year-old, and there was rumours that he was a bleeder horse that kind of burst inside.
That's one thing you're not perturbed by.
No, because my first 2 were bleeders, Casher Casualty and All the Blaze, and because my first 2 horses were bleeders.
Sometimes you got to take a chance. Like Denman, they took a chance on. They took a chance on Silver Birch. These horses won Gold Cups and Grand Nationals.
If you're an owner, like, you're not going to go near a bleeder, right? So if there's in America they may run horse on Lasix. We don't do that over here. I think it's a far better way over here. But Damien isn't perturbed, and he seems to have a system to deal with it.
Yeah, well, that's it. You find out why they burst. Every horse can just get labelled a burster, and that's it. But if you actually go into it, every horse is bursting for a slightly different reason. And once you pinpoint the reason, then you can start to treat it. You know.
I think Damien, you're an example of why people would want to buy horses as a syndicate, because it's not all about Willie Mullins or Aidan O'Brien. And as brilliant as they're doing for Irish global sport, it's also about yourself and about Johnny, having horses with yourself.
But that's the thing, like, there's so much fun to be had going racing, and like to go to Dundalk, and like tonight we're taking on Aidan Joseph O'Brien with an 800 quid horse, like, why not? Let's have a bash.
Not only that, well, if you're in the Dublin region and you want to get into horsemanship, he's based in Dublin, he's by the beach, you're half an hour away if you're around city centre or whatever, and then when you go into the yard, you're treated like somebody that actually matters, like, and it's a small trainer and you feel part of it. I've really enjoyed it anyway so far.
That's good.
Let's look ahead to the weekend. 2 Group 1 races at Newmarket. We got the Juddmonte Cheveley Park Stakes at 2:25 tomorrow. A Group 1 race for fillies over 6 furlongs. Johnny, the favourite for this is Pretty Pollyanna, Sylvester de Souza in the saddle for Michael Bell. Is it a worthy favourite?
Yeah, very good performance in France last time, beating the Colts. And I suppose the last kind of proper horse you can think Michael Bell had was probably Sariska, and she actually she became a bit of a madam later on in her life. She wouldn't leave the stalls, but this filly's already rated 117, and she's probably just shown too much for the likes of these. Now, Aidan's horse in the race are very interesting, so perfect last time. She ran up against Advertise at the Curragh. I suppose it was a race in which Sergei Prokofiev was very disappointed. People remember it for that. But she was well backed, and her form is rock solid at 10-1. She's a good each way chance as well. But I think Pretty Pollyanna should be probably the one to beat, all right.
Do you view in this one, Damien?
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, look, Sheila Lavery is one of the best trainers in the country, if you ask me, and her horse running the Mile was fantastic.
That's Lady Kai, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd just love to see her horse run a big race here. She wouldn't be the biggest setup, but she does really well with her horses, and she deserves a big day like that.
Very forthright as well. There's no mess around. She tells the media what she thinks.
It should be. Should be.
Yeah, she's absolutely there.
The 3 o'clock, the Juddmonte Middle Park Stakes, a Group 1 race for colts over 6 furlongs. So these are 2-year-olds, and an odds-on shot. Aidan O'Brien with Dunica in the saddle, 10 sovereigns. Is it a banker?
You'd like to have him now.
Yeah,
Have you seen him in the flesh?
I have, yeah.
What's he like?
Oh, he's a beast. He is.
Yeah.
He's everything I'd look for in a horse now. Oh, you couldn't knock him.
He's slightly out of your price range.
Just a little bit. A little bit. We need him to run terribly now this weekend, wouldn't we?
Yeah. What I love about him, John, is the way he finishes his races. He just goes into overdrive and his stride. He's just manner of like basically exploding in the final furlong, and I think he'll get a mile. But again, I'm going to oppose him because just at the prices, like Sergei Prokofiev is 8-1. He's kind of forgotten. He wasn't right the last year. They put a tongue tie on him. You could explain that as well. Why would you put a tongue tie on a horse?
A tongue tie is just to help a horse with their breathing. If we ever get a horse with wind operated on, we'd always tie their tongue down because you just want as clear an airwave as possible, no interference. And it's one of those things, like sometimes you can try it at home on a horse, and if you think it brings out the slightest improvement, you're going to go with it.
Would a horse resent it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Fillies can be, geldings normally don't mind, but an odd filly now can actually rear up when you put it on. But it's one of those things, you trial and error at home first, and if you feel it's improving a horse, you stick with it.
Sometimes the media, you think you should be tongue tied every second week as well. But Sergei Prokofiev, to me, just at the prices, he is the forgotten horse. He's running the Coventry, he's performed early in the season, massive regard for him at home. Do you want it back 4-6 or 8-1 each way? So just go for the 8-1 each way, I think.
How do we know, guys, if a 2-year-old's going to make it next year? Can you tell at this stage?
Yeah, you can to an extent, yeah. It's all about how they train on, really. But no, you can see the class. Like when you're watching 2-year-olds, you can do 2 or 3 runs in a 2-year-old career. You can see them progressing, and you can kind of pick out the ones that are gonna make it.
And on Sunday at Naas, here at home, 5:05 the Beresford Stakes. A Group 2 race over a mile, once again for 2-year-olds, that time of the season where we're trying to get the best of the juvenile crop and looking ahead to next season as well for the big races. What are you looking at here, Johnny?
Yeah, like again, it's about prices. Aidan has 3 in this race. They're all by Galileo. Interesting stat in the Racing Post for No Nay Never's race tomorrow. Of 42 2-year-old colts that he's run this season, first time out, how many do you think won? Of 42?
5?
5?
8?
2. And No Nay Never was one of them. And the other one was a Frankel horse that won at Naas, I think, last week, whose name escapes me. No Galileo horses won first time out. And that just shows how even Aidan has changed his training methods. Now, a lot of them are Galileos or late developers, but these are typical of that. None of them won on debut. 3 Galileos. Mount Everest won workmanlike at the Curragh, but he's sort of 8 to 13. I think he's very short. I prefer Japan at the prices, John. He came from way back at Listowel to win. He was workmanlike, but he's just a way bigger price, and I think he's value.
Would it be because of breeding? Because Galileo was a middle distance horse, possibly that these horses over shorter distances.
Yeah, and I think what he did was, I remember my first time at the Curragh, and basically Aidan was going to win the first race of the season, the 5-year-old, 2-year-old race. That was a given. Aidan rarely has a runner in that race anymore, so he changed. And then I think what happened was he got all these Galileos. He realised basically how special they were, and he's like, we're not going to abuse them on debut. We're going to just educate them a little bit more. And you can see how much they improve, like first race to second now. I'm sure you'd love to have like proper maiden kind of contenders as well.
Oh, look, that's the dream someday, yeah. But like with 2-year-olds, their first run can make or break them. Like if you have a 2-year-old and you have them wound up to win first time out, and they get upset in the stalls and that, they can think about then the next day. Like their first run does make or break them. You need everything to go smoothly so they can progress. Like if they get a fright the first day, you could be in trouble, you know. It's
a cracking card at Naas as well, John. You know, just from start to finish, really good racetrack. The owners and trainers.
Is it a better flat track than a jumps track?
I love it as a jumps track as well, actually. I mean, I think it's quite a fair track. It's a very stiff finish, you know, and 7 furlong races at Naas and Navan are kind of the equivalent to me of a mile race on a flat track, but they put in this owners and trainers kind of, it's a circular kind of structure, and you're basically overlooking the finishing line. One of the best views you can get at an Irish race meeting, and a really, really good racetrack, and hopefully there's a good crowd on Sunday.
Yeah, we're talking about Leytown there. Are there tracks you want to win it? I don't know, you said you were a winner of the Curragh this
the
season.
Curragh was high on my list now, so I was delighted to this season. Fairyhouse is another local track of mine that I've never had a winner at. Now that's one I'd really like to. But other than that, now we'll just keep tipping away at what we're doing.
So what do you know now when the flat season the turf season draws to a close? What will happen in the winter? Will it be up to Dundalk a lot?
Yeah, this is my busy time now. This is when we really get going, and we'll target Dundalk every Friday. There's an odd Wednesday meeting there, but now there's plenty of prize money and offer up there, and we've 15 there in at the minute, and going to the sales next month. I hope we buy a few more. So in 2016, I think we got about just over £100,000 prize money with 8 horses. So that's in my mind to try and beat that now this year.
And would you ever think of going dual purpose or anything like that?
Not at the minute. Look, as I said,
you follow the jumps, would you?
Oh yeah. Jump racing was always my passion. But for a business model, I found something that works. And eventually, maybe someday, if people were to invest in buying me nice national hunt horses, but you take on the likes of Gigginstown, Richie, JP McManus, you know. So for me, it doesn't make sense. But I'd never rule anything out with horses, you know.
You've horses by some really good stallions in the yard at the moment, like Dubawi, Warfront, and maybe your stock is just rising a bit as well in terms of quality.
Yeah, well, like the last 2 sales we've gone to now, we've bought 2 horses for around 14,000, like, and that'd be a lot for us, you know. And we bought a couple for 7, where before it was all $5,000 or less horses. So we've upped the budget.
Is it nervous handing it over, or once again, you're just putting that out?
No, it's just a price. Like I just focus on the animal. I wouldn't put the money down if I wasn't happy with the horse I was buying, you know. So
good philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, we see what Gavin Cromwell's done well in the recent years in the jumps coming through, and you know you want to see people coming
absolutely
through.
Yeah, and this year's been a bit different in that regard. Ken Condon won the Guineas, the 2,000 Guineas. Jessica Harrington won the 1,000 Guineas, and you know, you just saw more of a spread. I suppose Aidan had a quite enough year, but you know, I'm obviously a Galway man, but none of us really want to see Kilkenny win the All-Ireland every year. You know, I think most people don't want to see Dublin win the All-Ireland every year, and it's not. You just want to see a more level playing field, and that's why. You know, that I guess you want to see young people come true. You want the dream to be realistic, you know, and Damien has shown that it is.
Time to try and make some money, folks. Our Injured Jockeys Fund, thanks to Johnny Ward, is up to €515. Did you have a good run last week?
Best not argue, yeah, for Joseph O'Brien, won readily at Goran, completed 2 on the bounce. For her, another... and this is an angle as well, because he got that horse for another yard, and you know, I suppose it's something that it's an angle you look for. Can you improve one out of another yard?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you always like to think you're doing things better than the rest of them. So yeah,
because you've had very few horses that from the get go, like.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's very true. And I'm always trying to improve them, but it's not even improving. It's just getting them back to their best. You know, for some reason or other they lost away, but it's just getting the horse into their peak mental health, physical health, and cracking on with them.
Well, I also, this is a bit of a tangent now, what I love the last time in the Damien's yard, we went into the paddocks behind his yard, and all the horses were there in their own little paddock, and Craig was there at the time. He was telling us about each of their characters, and he said, this is a confident kid, he's got real swagger, he's exactly like his name. That's Sea of Rome, he's a little bit more laid back. And the two of them were in kind of fields, in paddocks together, and Confident Kid was giving them all the works, and Sea of Rome was kind of timid, but then eventually he got into it, and you can see they were buddies. And like, I love that just human aspect of it, like they have their own characteristics.
They do, big time. And like, geological there, him and Mockalad, if they're out in paddock beside each other, they're always enticing each other to race up against the wire against each other. You know, they are real competitive.
They become your children in a way, do they?
Oh, they do. Like, I could park the Jeep in the field and sit there for 3 hours just watch them in the field. Like, it's great, and they're entertaining, and they all have their own quirks, but they're all very competitive. If you watch them just in their natural environment, they are all edging each other on and real competitive animals. So
that's brilliant. So this week, thanks to the tote.com, we'll try and make a few more quid for the Injured Jockeys Fund. Our €100 bet this week is what, Johnny? I think it's at Naas on Sunday, 4:35.
It's in the it's a Joe McGrath handicap.
Yeah.
It might be the only handicap at Naas, actually, and it's a competitive race. Amanat has blinkers on for the first time. He was with James McCauley. I think he was with John Gosling initially, and a lot of the owner's horses, James Goff, who would have served in the HRI board, might still be on it, have gone to Dennis Hogan, who's a good trainer, a very shrewd operator. Big Tipperary hurling fan, so we'll have big hopes for next year. If you don't see him racing, you'll see him at Croke Park. But this horse ran a blinder both at starts, and it's a nice weights revision with only spoofing last time from Navan when missed the break, and his blinkers on, probably just to sharpen it up a little bit. And I think Dennis will do well with the Goff horses that he's gotten, and I think this horse has a huge chance. I would also give a mention to Miss Power for Eddie Lynham. He's had a quite enough year, but she ran a blinder at the Curragh and could be interesting. But Amanat has a huge chance.
Amanat, the paper favourite with the Racing Post for this race on Sunday, the 4:35. This is Johnny Ward's bet. Now check out what the prices are on the tote on the day, and we'll try and we can see if we can get some more money for the Injured Jockeys Fund. Lads, thanks so much for coming in. Damien, are you into other sports as well as horses?
Look, I actually played a lot of soccer growing up in that. I played my fair share of GAA. I'm big into sports. Actually, my local football club are doing a raffle for a house. For a house, if anyone's interested. They're trying to get the local football pitch closer to the village, and they're raffling a house. It's £100 a ticket. Okay. And you can win a 2-bed house. And
what's the football club?
Well, Scadden FC.
Okay.
You check them out on Facebook and that. But I think it's the house and 10,000 comes with it to invest in doing it up and that. So it's a great cause. It's a great little club. Look, we started out, the seniors there many years ago as a bit of a pub team. But they've got 2 senior teams now, and it's getting a bit more serious, and they want to invest in the club. And I think this is a brilliant raffle. Like, to win a house for £100, it's something a bit special.
Yeah.
So just check that out.
Johnny, you going to the Arc?
No, I'm not going to the Arc. I'll probably go to Naas and on to the FAI Cup final, semi-final afterwards in Dalymount. I want to do an interview with one of the jockeys, so I might do that before race, get a couple of races in, and on to Dalymount then. I think that'll be a cracking day as well, and I think it's sold out, but I had 2 good cup semi-finals this weekend, and I do like that with Damien. A lot of trainers, they literally can't see the wood from the trees. Like,
they're living in a bubble.
They can't talk about anything other than horses. They generally marry a woman who's into horses, you know, and their kids will do the same. But you could chat to Damien about the League of Ireland. You could chat to him about the Dubs. You could chat to him about having a pint at the weekend or 2, and you know,
3.
Yeah, and you've good crack, you know, and you like that as well.
Damien, pleasure to have you in.
Great to
Thank
be
you.
in. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Johnny.
Who wins the Ryder Cup?
Oh, the USA. I said 17-11 this morning, so I don't know what it's like at the moment, but yeah.
I am disappointed because rarely do we have the TV on the studio. The bloody Ryder Cup is on, you know.
Yeah, privileges.
Anyway. Johnny, you were a pro throughout this edition of Friday Night Racing, thanks to GoRacing.ie. Next week, we'll look forward to Tipperary and the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. So for now, slán go fóill. Thank you.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at GoRacing.ie.